don't want to get too close. Yeah. How you feel? Well enough to be here. Really? Yeah.
Oh boy, we're gonna walk a lot.
I don't want to get Ian's got the flu.
Sorry about the technical glitches. Hi, Lori. Can I ask you a favor? Would you be in charge of this bag? I'm going to put my key in here. Thank you. I much appreciate that. Too many things to hold.
Just too much. Just too much. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to throw it over there. Okay. They're just coming around, and then this is a much better. Yeah, this is much better. Good. You know, it's already pretty good. So where are you going to have them walk? Because they're going to follow me. Okay, good.
Going head first because of where we're positioned.
Okay, thank you. This is much better. Look, it's not minus 50. Lena, Sector Elbaz.
You were the Zedek?
Yes. I do engagement in education, and I've recently taken on some ritual responsibilities as well.
Right.
This will be much easier. It's not all as muddy.
I'm not overly fearful of your illness. I've got robust immune system.
So we could begin.
Very good. Pallbearer?
Yes, the pallbearers, please approach.
We're keeping it this way?
Head first, yes. So I'll just go straight down there.
Yep.
Okay.
Pallbearers.
Okay, everyone. Sorry. So I'll lead the way, and I'm going to be the SOG 23. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai rei lo echased, binot deshe yarbitzeini, alamem anachalot yanchameni, gam ki elech bagiat salmahavet, lo yirak yata imadi, Shiftecha v'shantecha yachamuni, v'shifti lebeit Adonai leorech yamim. A Song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Sorry. I would like to welcome all of you who have gathered today, and I'm very honored to officiate at the funeral of Marion Laxer, Miriam Bat Aharon V'chaya Sarah, who passed away on the 9th of May, the 9th of the Hebrew month of ER 5782. Beloved mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, may the memory of Miriam Bat Aharon V'chaya Sarah be a blessing. I'm Rena Sector Elbaz from Congregation Shaarey Zedek. Thank you all for being here today to honor Marion. There are a few people who'd like to speak. I'll call on Claire to come up first. You don't need to go too close. Apparently, it's quite loud.
This was the one thing I didn't want to do, but I'm going to do it for my mom. Our mom was a remarkable person. Family was the most important thing to her. She always had a plate at her table for family and friends. You always knew you could go to Marion's. She was loving and caring and non-judgmental. Everyone would seek her out for advice or just to talk things out. She always wanted the best for everyone and would deny herself things to make sure her children had what they needed. She was very selfless and kind. Each of her children and grandchildren had a special, unique relationship with her. Some of the many memories that we talked about were when I was a child. My mother had a book, and I still have it to this day, of cut-up cakes. And they were birthday cakes of all different shapes. And we used to get to pick what we wanted, and we'd go to bed. And in the morning, you'd wake up, and on the dining room table was your cake, all decorated and ready for your part. There were more hours in a day for my mom than for anyone else. I don't know how she ever managed to get everything done. She looked after her kids when they were sick. So when my kids were really little, they were sickly for the first few years. And I used to drop one child at the glass house, and they would run around in there, nothing would break. She would take them to Sal's for lunch. Always had stuff for them to do. Every Friday, my kids slept over at my mom's house. She made Shabbos dinner. She cleaned up. She chewed us all out. She kept the kids. I'd come in the morning when she was getting ready to go to work and get her hair done. The kids were bathed, dressed, eating breakfast, way better than I could have done, and off she would go to work. My mom was always impeccably dressed. It was important to her that there wasn't a single thing that wasn't ironed or out of place. Her iron will live on forever. And in the same vein, even just a month ago, my mom was asking where her lipstick was in the home because she had to have her lipstick on. She never even went out of her room, but she needed her lipstick on. She never, ever wanted anyone to help her, even to the end. She ate with her fingers. They loved her at the home because they didn't need anybody to help her, because even if you wanted to, she wouldn't let you. When Jordan was little, my son, he had his wisdom teeth out, and it was right around the time when the movie The English Patient came out. And I had to work, and so Jordan moved in with my mom, and she called him the Jewish patient. She gave him a bell, and if he needed anything, all he had to do was ring the bell. To this day, he remembers that as the best week of his life. My mom was really very private. Social media would not have been for my mother in any fashion. If you asked her a question and she didn't want to answer it, she would always say, "Does Eaton's tell the bay?" And she would tell you nothing. My mom was my best friend, what you today would call my BFF, and I'm going to really miss her. She was the best friend anyone could have. I always hope to be like her.
Thank you so much, Claire. It's now Ron who's going to come up and speak.
My mom was born in 1918, November 17th, and if you look up that date on the internet, you'll find that Winnipeg had a
parade that day. It was probably primarily for the end of the First World War and the soldiers coming home, but I like to think partly at least for my mom's birthday. We never knew growing up that she was born in 1918. Her reason for never telling us what year she was born was that ladies never tell their age, and it wasn't until we were adults that we found out that she was born in that year, and that it was hiding another family secret, which was that she was 2 years older than my mom. But I guess everyone will know now. Her father had come at the turn of the century from Eastern Europe, where problems still exist, to escape the pogroms of the Jewish villages, and he established himself in Canada and moved to a house on Mead Street. And I know all my cousins have heard all the stories about Mead Street because there was 8 brothers and sisters living in that house, and they all talk about how my grandfather would help other friends and relatives emigrate to Canada. So my mom always told the story, and she always told it about how it was a huge house full of people helping each other and getting by. And later in life, I would come to visit, and I would take my mom for drives, and just to reminisce. And we drove by that house on Mead Street, and that giant house is about 800 square feet. It might be big for Mead Street. I'm going to tell 3 stories, if you'll let me. And I know most of you have heard them because my mom told them over and over again. They're her 3 stories. And first one was when she was a kid. I'm not sure how old, but she was walking home from school, and there were kids in the neighborhood started throwing rocks at her and her friends because they were Jewish. And she started throwing rocks back, and one of the rocks she threw went through a window, hit another kid. And the school principal hauled all the kids in, and he knew what happened. So he said, "Who broke the window?" And I got to do the gesture, because she always did when she told it. She said, "I told them I did it." and the principal said to her, "Well, you know, everybody was throwing rocks. How did you know yours is the one that broke the window? You know, anyone could have gone any which way." And she said, "I threw it, I broke the window." Another story she always told was how she became a bookkeeper. It was the Depression, and it was the Depression, and there wasn't a lot of money around, and she wanted to get a job, and she wanted to get an education. So she went to the business school and met with the manager there and said, "If you trust me, I will pay back every cent of my education." And he talked to her, and he let her in, and she became a bookkeeper. And she was rapidly moved into a credit manager job. And she always talked about how she would look at those applications, but she would meet with the people, and she would know whether they were good creditors or not, regardless of what it said on the paper. Then she always told the story of how she met my dad, the love of her life. My aunt, we can't decide whether it was Pearl or Rose, set them up on a blind date. And before the blind date, because the blind date was a big party, and before the blind date, they wanted to meet to make sure the day would go okay, and so we arranged a lunch, and my dad, I guess, forgot or didn't show up, and she sent him a telegram, and it said, "Still waiting, getting hungry." And then they went on the date. At that time, they lived on Bannatyne Avenue. They did end up going on the date, and my dad called a taxi to go pick her up, not realizing that the date was a party at their house on Bannatyne, which was down the block from where he lived. So he took a cab about five houses down. She loved my dad. I hope they're together, playing bridge at a kitchen table somewhere. My sister said it. She had a special relationship with everybody. I think everybody here knows that, and she truly relished in everybody's success, and she only saw the good. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate those stories. Ian, if you'd like to come up.
I'd just like to share a personal anecdote. In the early 1980s, my parents took a trip to Israel. And at some point they had a stopover or layover in Montreal at Mirabel Airport, where at that time there were international flights. And I think it was at the end of the trip, although I can't be sure because my memory's fading. But we coordinated a meeting. And I was living in Montreal at the time, and I drove out to Mirabel Airport. And I had lunch with Mom and Dad. And throughout the years, my mom and my dad were very effusive about their trip to Israel. They had lots of fond memories and lots of pictures. About 30 years later, I was going through my mom's papers, and I came upon a notebook. And at the top of the page, it said highlights from our trip to Israel. And the first entry in the notebook was, the highlight of this trip was seeing my son Ian at lunch at Mirabel Airport. It was late in the game, and I wanted to talk to her about it and ask her about it. But alas, her memory had become fairly selective at that point. But then I didn't really need to ask her about it. The significance is palpable.
Thanks, Ian. For all of the family who's also watching on live stream, to Lorene and kids and grandkids and great-grandkids who aren't here, I'm glad that we're able to share this with them as well. Having spent some time this morning talking via Zoom with you, I began to understand a little bit more about this extraordinary woman, daughter, spouse, sister, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. I really got an understanding about how she was a pillar for her family. Blessed to reach the age of 103, surviving 2 pandemics, 2 world wars. I'm told that she was not the eldest of 7 siblings, but was the natural leader, always taking it upon herself to assist in resolving conflicts, making herself available with her sound judgment, non-judgmental advice, lending a sympathetic ear. Sounded a little bit like my own grandmother's. And I was quite impressed that she was able to work 6 days a week at the glass house. her business that she shared with her sister, and yet managed to host all those family dinners, look after the grandchildren, keep her house in impeccable form. It was so impressive. And the idea that she was able to prepare Passover a month ahead. I'm barely able to do that now, so amazing. Talking with all of you, I could see how she inspired all of you, and this amazing way of balancing family and home. And she left this indelible mark on all of you, but also she enhanced our synagogue. And I was so touched how you told me about the beautiful silver pieces that she donated that are used on a regular basis at our functions. How absolutely beautiful. And the contribution of the statue of Moses that we have at the synagogue. Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, also, like your mother, was privileged to live past 100 years. And the Torah describes him, his eyes were undimmed and his strength undiminished. Sounds much like the mother that you described. A leader, a matriarch, who had the privilege of witnessing so much change in the world and acting as a bridge between the past and inspiring the future for all of you. May her memory be a blessing and she live on through all of you. I was asked by the family to let you know that there's going to be something at the Chiswick home at 637 Park Boulevard East. It's 1 block south of Grand Corner of Swindon and Park East, to come back after the funeral. I'm now going to chant the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim Shochein B'Maramim Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei HaShechina B'Mahalot Kedoshim V'Taharim Kezar Rakia Mazirim Et Neshamat Miriam Bat Aharon V'Chaya Sara She'alcha Le'olama Ba'avur Shenedvut Tzedakah Be'ad Haskarat Neshamota Began Eden Tiyeh Menuchata Lachen Balarachamim Yastireha Beseter Knafav Leolamim Veyetzror Betzror HaChaim Et Neshamata Adonai Hu Nachalata Vetanuach Al Mishkava Bashalom Venomar Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Miriam bat Aharon v'Chaya Sarah, who is gone to her supernal world, for charity has been donated in remembrance of her soul. May she rest in peace in Gan Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter her with the cover of his wings forever and bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her heritage. May she rest in the resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please join me now for the mourner's Kaddish on the paper that I have given to you. There's also the transliteration for those who need it. Itgadal ve'itkadash shemei Rabah, be'alma divera cherute ve'amlich malchute, bechayechon uvyomechon uvachaye dechol beit Israel, ba'agala uvizman kariv vimeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabah mevorach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Itbarach ve'ishtabach ve'itfoar ve'itromam ve'itnaseh ve'itadar ve'italeh ve'italal shmei dekusha berichu le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה וימרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. המקום ינחם אתכם בתוך שער אבלי ציון בירושלים. May the omnipresent comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. I am now going to invite you to help us place earth on the coffin. This is a great act of tzedakah that the person can never repay. So you're supposed to put 3 shovels full as you are able, if possible using the back of the shovel because it's supposed to be different from the way we would usually shovel earth, and then put the shovel back so as not to pass the grief on, if you are able. This will conclude for today. Thank you all once again for being with us. I would let you know also that we offer in-person and live stream services if you would like. It's at 6 p.m. on the synagogue, Facebook and YouTube, and of course on site. There's more than one shovel if you want to go from the other side as well. If you can't do the back of the shovel, it's okay too.